There's a lot of people on the sidelines in regards to the events of 9/11 who don't really much have in the way of a voice. These are people who are basically just on the sidelines looking into the viral media of Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. I know because I used to be one of those people for 12 years until 2 years ago. I started uh, doing videos on YouTube, writing articles on Medium, opening my own blog. I never would have thought uh, that I would ever get to this point because I was very shy. And also, I was very insecure about what kind of point I would be making in regards to how I'm helping with the situation. I like to think that I'm an educational channel. Um, I've been studying uh, Middle East foreign policy, U.S. Foreign policy, the CIA, NSA, even religious fundamentalism, and of course, anything I can get my hands on regarding any type of reputable 9/11 books that are out there, which are very few and far between, but they do exist. Um, I don't have much in the way of a big channel, but I have 456 people who subscribe to it. And one thing I've always reiterated to people I speak to on viral media is that I don't want a very large following. In fact, I don't want basically anyone following me. I do vet people on my viral media. If you have a dead channel or you just made your channel, I don't accept. I don't want fake profiles. I don't care about a big channel. What I want is an invested core group of people. And another thing also that I want to bring up, I don't want followers. I don't mind you subscribing to my channels to, basically observe and, learn uh, information that wasn't privy to you previously. But my goal is, and I sound like a broken record, but my goal is for you, the subscriber, the follower, to go and open your own channel, to write your own articles, do your own blogs. Um, and I know some of you just started and you want to, just learn as much as you can. And not, you're not in a rush to do this. But for the people who have been around, around the block a couple of years, you can start doing your own learning channel. Um, and there are a couple of people that I find to be uh, quite learned in this subject, and that I'm trying to push forward to do to get them to open their own channel and for them to become the teacher. And another goal I have in mind is the people who are going to open up the channels in the future um, do far more extensive research than people like myself or others, and to produce and do more with the content than what I'm doing now or what others are doing. And that's how you build a movement. Um, I don't want to keep repeating the same things I said in previous videos. I just did want to touch on this, and also um, I do want to reiterate that as a warning for my followers and subscribers, um, you know, be careful uh, in what you ascertain as information or who you follow, because there's a lot more disinformation than there is actual information, unfortunately, in this particular area. I should know because when I first started, there were very few people that I could learn from, and the two people that I can actually give a shout out to and credence. One is the late Justin Raymond from antiwar.com, and the other is Ryan Dawson. Um, and, it took me 12 years to come across the likes of who I consider the best researcher in DJ Thermal Detonator, Nelson Martins. But how many people can you name on your hand that were actually good researchers, reputable researchers? I bet you could name more than five people. That's unfortunate. Even now, 19 years later. The CIA doesn't have to infiltrate the truth movement. They do it to themselves by allowing these proponents of no planes and no hijackers to speak on their behalf. I'm not going to talk about this issue again because that's what I reiterated in my previous video. So there are a few good researchers out there, and I want you to take as much time as you can in order for you to learn about this very important subject. And, even though now we're facing what could be even bigger problems down the road, just remember that the attacks of September 11, 2001 precipitated most of this. And it gave us this world that we're experiencing now. And with a very bleak outlook and unfavorable future, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't stop fighting for the truth of 9/11 or ascertain as much of it. And to, it's easy, it's low-hanging fruit to pick on people who fell victim to people who purport no planes and no hijackers. It's easy, but, I used to not believe a plane hit the Pentagon for like a month or two. I watched Loose Change. It's the most popular documentary in all of 9/11, unfortunately. But that doesn't mean that we should knock these people. These are the people we're trying to help. I don't want an echo chamber. It's not very fulfilling. I want to put people on blast. People like Christopher Bolin and Rebecca Roth, Loose Change, CIT, Barbara Honegger, Craig McKee. These people are outright frauds. Now, I don't want to keep sounding like a broken record. And, I call them out because the people in the truth movement won't do it. You won't. Because they serve a purpose for you, right? Because they're in your movements. They're in your organizations. And they're hurting them. And if you're a truth movement, you wouldn't cater to speculation that is harmful to ascertaining the truth. It's good to speculate when you're trying to ascertain the facts. But it's also a detriment when you allow people who espouse falsehoods, outright conspiracy theories that don't even make sense. And, I'm a pessimist, but I'm hoping with a hint of optimism here that, someday in the future, hopefully short order, that we do have some people in the truth movement who just, will abandon this loyalty, this blind loyalty to these people and basically say, yeah, these people are hurting the movement. And that's what they do. But I can understand the hesitation because there's such a large contingent of the truth movement that caters to these people and that they would label anyone who come against them as a shill, as an agent. That's what they call me. Or worse off, what they do to people like David Chandler, who was actually the face of the truth movement 10 years ago. And now he's the vilified enemy because he actually worked with Wayne Costi about a plane actually hitting the Pentagon. And all he did was narrate it. And so they send him death threats through email. And they call him a shill. And they call him a liar and an agent on Facebook, on Twitter, in conferences. Well, the people that do that are cowards. And, this video is not about rehashing old posts, in which I did anyway, but I feel that the people in the truth movement really need to stand up. And it's going to be a sacrifice because you're going to be vilified for it. I'm not, I'm not part of that movement because I'm in favor of a new movement. And I made a video about this, about what I think the truth movement needs to do is to abandon some of these organizations and movements and create a new one and then vet the people who want to be in it. You can't just allow anybody in a movement because it then becomes inverted with people who espouse conspiracy theories, and who knows how many of them are compromised, if at all they are. I happen to think that a majority of them are not compromised. They're just people who are espousing conspiracy theories because they don't know any better, or that they want to sell books and become relevant in a movement that gives them prominence. And that they want followers. They don't want leaders. Has Christopher Bolin ever told anybody from his ilk, has he ever made a video hoping that his followers become leaders? That they want, he wants his followers to, open up freedom of information requests about, Saudi financing into the hijackers, or or releasing the hard drives that were collected at Urban Moving Systems. What was on those hard drives? There was 15, 20 of them for such a small moving company that basically did no work. But if you're these conspiracy theorists that don't believe in hijackers of planes, what does that matter, right? Because you basically don't want to open up a freedom of information request because you don't believe in Arab hijackers. You don't believe in Saudi financing. You won't open up a freedom of information request regarding hard drives because if there are no Arab hijackers, you don't have Israeli moving front companies following the hijackers. They don't exist. So this is the reason why I tell you people to be careful who you follow, who you research. It's good to do some background study on the people who are producing information. I hope you do it for me. That's the reason why I made my YouTube page a learning page. Basically encompasses many areas relating to 9/11, which are important. None of it's conspiracy. It's primary source information. Same for my blog. It's basically documents and files, news articles, primary data. Nothing that I made up on the spot. You can actually fact check it yourself, one by one, which I hope you do anyway. That's how a responsible researcher conducts an investigation. Think of it like this. Consider yourself an investigator, a crime investigator. Do you basically go to the scene of the crime and ask a third-hand source who wasn't there about what happened, or do you interview people who were actually at the scene of the crime and saw a crime take place? So why would you listen to the likes of Craig McKee, excuse me, Christopher Bolin, Rebecca Roth, Loose Change, CIT? They weren't there. Why would you listen to them? They don't interview the people who are there, because if they did, they wouldn't espouse the nonsense that they do. It's the reason why they don't interview the people of Somerset County. They don't interview the people who are at the Pentagon. They don't interview these people because they don't believe a plane crashed at those sites. The Christmas holidays are upcoming, New Year's, and we are in the middle of a pandemic, and worse off, what's even worse is that the upcoming eviction suspension is lifted at the end of the month nationwide. It's the CDC nationwide Rent Suspension Act, which was extended from September to December. and it covers people from March until December. Now, if this is going to affect approximately 40 million people, that is 12% of the populace of the United States. Now, how many of them owe back rent from March to December? I can't tell you. I don't know. But one thing's for certain, a good majority of this populace owe rent from September to December. And that's a lot of money, especially if you live in New York or in California, or Washington, or Massachusetts. Uh, how many people are going to be potentially left out in the cold, literally, dead right smack in the middle of winter? And these corrupt politicians of both the Democratic and Republican parties who can't make up their minds about how much they feel they should give us. And it ranges anywhere from $600 to $1,200, which I find to be worthy of a revolt. And I would lead the charge myself. Pitchforks and lanterns alike, and not tiki torches. We got to hold these people accountable because they're going to ruin tens of millions of lives nationwide. And no matter who you think won the election, whether Trump or Biden, which is right dead center stage, it's the stories that have a bigger impact are not being talked about on the legacy media. And it's unfortunate that you have to go to Twitter, which is a great source for finding out information like this. And the only time you're going to hear about it are the very few people who are really basically independents. Very few people from the liberal and conservative backgrounds will basically stray away from the more fanatical tales. That sounds familiar, doesn't it? That's 9/11 for you. The people of the official narrative, the people who espouse conspiracy theories, dominate the spectrum. And the careful researchers, the more reputable researchers, are few and far between in which they share pertinent data. But it's like finding a needle in a haystack. But I'm going to end the video on that. And I wish you a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays, Happy Winter Solstice. Try to make the best of it for those who are really financially lacking. I'm not going to sit here and chastise you and say, "Oh, I know how you feel." I don't know how you feel. I can't imagine being in that situation. I'm fortunate. I live here with my mother, and we're fortunate. I have a job, good job, and there's not a day that goes by where I'm thankful for what I have. That's not much. I mean, but still, not much is a world to most. To some people who basically are going to lose everything because we live in a corrupt oligarch capitalist system that takes advantage of its constituents, of its voting bloc. That's why I don't vote. I think it's un-American too. And if they overturn the election somehow, if they overturn for Trump, they basically say, well, your vote really doesn't count. Well, in essence, it really doesn't, because Trump actually lost in 2016 the popular vote, but he won the electoral. I don't know who won this election. According to what's being reported everywhere, Biden won, right? But did he really win? How many votes from both of those people are legit? And not just talking about this election, but past ones too. One thing I must say, and I'll end it on this, is that, and this is from my experience, so take this with a grain of salt. in my job, I deal with people. Right? I deal with all walks of life, visitors and residents alone. And I talk with people. And basically, when I commiserate with them, I get their opinion about, politics because they want to talk to me. And you build a rapport with people that way. And most people say, well, I don't trust the government. Right? That seems to be an overwhelming, agreeable thought for most people. But even though they'll vote, but they just do it because they feel like they're doing something important. Needless to say, but most people will tell you they don't trust the government. I must tell you this. I don't think that many people vote, especially in regards to like this election. Now, yeah, Trump, I think, did everything he could to throw his election under the bus. His handling of this crisis was horrible. Not to mention his foreign policy is ridiculously one-sided. He happened to drop more bombs than the Obama administration. I don't know how he managed to do that. But one thing I could basically say on his behalf, he didn't create any new wars. He just continued the old wars of the Bush-Obama administration, which is the reason why Benjamin Netanyahu basically pressured Trump to come up with anything to instigate the Iran conflict. And Trump didn't bite. And basically, it's because the people behind the scenes, the top generals at the Pentagon, don't want an Iraq 2.0. And they know that Iran is not Iraq. If this war were to ever take place, it would basically destroy us as a country financially. And it would ruin forever any type of moderate Middle East relationships, even 100 or 150 years from now. I'll just leave it at 100. It would reverberate not just in the Shia world or the Shiite world, but to the Arab world as a whole. Because even though Saudi Arabia is basically governed by Wahhabi principles, there's a large percentage of Persians that live there. And the most holiest place of all of Islam, Mecca and Medina. And Iran is basically a respected Shia nation from a theological point of view and also politically. They're militarily stronger than Iraq, militarily stronger than Syria, militarily stronger than Afghanistan. And they're politically respected, not just in the Arab World League, but also within, say, NATO, for example, and also in the United Nations. So it would be a horrific choice if we were to ever listen to the two cancers to our foreign policy, Saudi Arabia and Israel, who we should deem their lobbies foreign agents, because that's what they are. We should not be listening to these people. But it's unfortunate that they have power over both the House and Senate and the Republican and Democratic parties. And that's the bottom line. That's the facts. And it's not going to change anytime soon, no matter how much reform you keep hearing out of Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman or the Labor Party in the Knesset for Israel. These people don't want peace. They don't want regime change. They want regime change in these enemies that surround them. And they're not enemies of ours. These should be our friends. And at one time, these were prosperous countries. And so that's my rant for this video. I probably won't make another until after the holidays. And so, I wish you and yours, once again, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year's, Happy Hanukkah. And keep hope alive for those who are going to suffer under the upcoming rent suspension lift. And I wish I could help, but what I can do on my part, even though it's very small, and I'm not going to give you thoughts and prayers. I'll do one better. I'll post as much pertinent information as I can in all my viral media to help educate the public about what's happening in the real world.